This was the week I have waited for. It was the 2019 Illinois Pepsi State Bowling Tournament. This was my first time qualifying for the state tournament from the regional zone tournaments. Whether it was because I did not bowl good or I just did not make the cut for that specific year for the 15 plus years I've been bowling. This was extra special because it was the last year that I was able to qualify. After all, I would age out of that season. It was also very busy because that upcoming week was finals week. On that Monday, I had my normal weekly practice session with my coach. It was a normal practice session where I just fine-tuned my technique. I also bowled a lot of games because it was going to be a lot, and I wanted to build up my stamina as much as I could. Towards the end of my 7th game, I noticed that my skin was ripping on the inside of my thumb. I showed my coach because that was the first time that was happening in that area. It also hurt. He told me just to stop for the night because he knew I would ignore it and probably made it worse if I pushed through it. So I decided that it was the end of practice for me. The next day, I had received a text from my coach telling me that he was going to be at the bowling alley today around 4 p.m. Of course, I completely jumped on the opportunity because it is rare that he would schedule any practices, especially on the week of a tournament. After my classes for the day, my mom and I drove up to the bowling alley to practice. This practice was not like any of the practices that I've had in a while. When I walked into the bowling alley with all my equipment, I noticed that there were the names of all the people that were at the practice in a bucket. Also, the screen said number 1 versus 5 on them. That made me think that we were doing pressure matches to prepare for this weekend. I really like when we do a pressure match because it's another opportunity to work on my mental game. Pressure match is when we go against another person and simulate like a tournament would be. It allows us to gain mental experience without being in a tournament without all the extra pressure. We drew numbers to see what lane we would start at. I picked number 5. That means I was to bowl the person who picked number 2, which was one of my coach's sons. In my head, I was really nervous because I know how good he is, especially he was 12 at the time this was happening. On the outside, I got excited because I wanted the challenge. After that practice, felt really good, and I was looking forward to a day off so I could grind up some schoolwork. Now it was Thursday, the day before the tournament weekend. I was getting excited about it because it was my first ever tournament that we had to stay in a hotel. It was already a good day at school because I received an email from my English professor saying that he would be pushing back our class on Monday because it would not take us long to do our last presentation. That put me in a really good mood because I did not want to wake up super early for an 8 a.m. final. I was getting excited for practice today. After a long day of studying for my finals and finishing up assignments for my classes, it was time to go practice. This was a much needed break. I walked into practice and I was ready for whatever my coach had for us that day. Today he set up a lane for a different station. For example, one lane would just be 7 pins, one would be working on spares, one would be one-on-one time with my coach, and so on. We had 5 minutes at each station before we had to switch. We did that for a good hour, then we just practiced for the rest of the time. After that, I felt really confident going into the qualifying round on Friday. When I got home, I had to pack and get ready to leave tomorrow. Well, the day has come. It was Friday, which means that it is the qualifying round of the Illinois Pepsi State Tournament. The qualifying had 2 squads due to the number of people in each division. For me, qualifying was at 7 p.m. I woke up with excitement. I packed up all my last-minute things, but we were not leaving until 2 p.m. So I just spent the rest of the time working on my English final, which was due Monday. I only had about half of it done while studying for all my other finals. Now it was 2 o'clock. We packed up all of our things and we headed for Rockford. We arrived at the hotel after an hour's drive. We checked and I went up to our room to drop off this stuff and back to the car for the rest of our belongings. After we got settled in, I hung up my jersey that I was going to wear that night to get all the possible wrinkles out. Then I decided to clean my bowling balls and get them all prepped for them. About an hour later, I started to get ready. Now I was getting nervous. I could not stop tap dancing with my feet, and I was nervous. Anyway, I put my hair up in a hair tie and put a scrunchie around it and got dressed and left. Once we arrived at the bowling alley, I got all my bowling balls and went inside to check in and get my lane assignment for the evening. Once I got to my lane, I put my AirPods in and put on my favorite playlist to get started in the zone. I got a couple reminders / tips from my coach for what bowling ball he suggested I start with. I put my balls on the rack, I put this ball tape on my thumb, and it was go time. Now the tournament has started. I took a couple deep breaths and I was ready. Now, since I do not remember the exacts of what happened in the tournament, but I do know I did bowl well, but not up to the expectations that I hold for myself. Now here comes the worst part, the waiting game to see if I made it to the finals. We went back to our hotel room just crashed since it was about 11 p.m. The next morning, I woke up and I prayed that I would make it. We would not find out until 6 p.m. that night. After I went down to the library for breakfast, I started working on my English paper again. I knew that if I was going to make it to the finals, I needed to get it done so that I would not have to worry about doing it late Sunday. Every so often, I would look at the website where they posted scores to see some updates on the scores for the qualifying group that was going on now. My mom went to the bowling alley to see some of our bowling friends and my friends qualifying round. She also gave me updates. I was really nervous. I just kept praying that I would make it. After a couple hours of anxiously waiting and trying to do schoolwork, I finally finished my 10-page paper. I was so relieved that I got to finish besides the left proofread and submission that I like to do after every paper assignment. After that, I decided not to do any more schoolwork for the rest of the day since my brain felt like mashed potatoes after that paper. It was about 5 p.m. when my mom came back to the hotel room. To ease my mind and anxiety about making it, we decided to walk across the hotel parking lot to Denny's to grab some dinner. When I was about halfway done with my meal, I decided to check if the scores were up yet. I grabbed my phone and I typed in the website. Then I scrolled down to the button where I clicked to see my division. I scrolled down to the girls' division, and I started scanning the names and if I saw mine above the cut line. I blinked and I did not see my name above the cut line. My name was right below the cut line. When I looked at the cut score I realized that I missed the cut by one single pin. When I saw that, my body just went numb. I was sad, frustrated, confused about why I did not make it. I showed my mom, and she felt bad for me since she knew that I tried my best. I really did not eat much of my dinner that night because I lost my appetite. I asked my mom if I could go back to the hotel while she was paying the bill. She gave me the room key and I headed back to the room. Once I got back to the room, I took off my shoes and jumped in bed and started crying. I was so heartbroken that I did not make it. I worked all season for this and did not even make it. Was just upsetting. When my mom came back to the room, she texted my coach saying that I did not make it. He texted back saying that it's just a learning lesson for you and you would come back even stronger. That made me feel better because, yeah, I was going to use these feelings for future tournaments. Then we called my dad telling him what happened and that we are going to stay the night just because we bought the room for the entire weekend, so I might as well just use it. Now it was about 10:30 p.m. We were just about to go to bed when we received a phone call from my dad. We answered the phone and he just told us that he got off the phone with the tournament director for the tournament I just booked. He told him that my dad told us that 2 girls in my division were disqualified because they entered in the wrong division than the one that they were actually supposed to be in. Then he told us that I've now qualified because one of those 2 girls were in the top 12 and get ready for an 8 a.m. check-in time. When my dad told us that, I was in complete shock. That shock then turned into happiness. I started to jump around the hotel room. I may have woken up the people below us, but I really did not care. We went to bed and I was ready to bowl the next day. It was a brisk Sunday morning. We packed up our belongings and left the hotel room. We arrived at the bowling alley and I grabbed all my bowling balls and equipment from the trunk of my mom's car and headed in while she was trying to find a place to park. As I walked in, I dropped my stuff in the designated equipment area for the bowlers and proceeded to head to check-in. After I checked in, I was heading to my lane when I saw my coach. He asked me if I was here to support some of my friends. And then I told him what happened last night with me getting called about me qualifying. He was happy for me, and he told me to take this second opportunity and kick butt. As I was getting ready and pulling out my equipment, I felt those nervous butterflies in my stomach. I tried my best using the breathing techniques I normally do, but that was not helping me calm my nerves. I just tried to stay calm as I could as it was time for practice and the final. The finals were okay. I did bowl good, but once again, not up to my expectations. After finals were over, I saw that I got 10th place. At first, I was really upset with myself because I felt like I let myself down. My coach came over and gave me a hug and high five and told me I did well. Then I realized I should be happy because I was originally not supposed to make it anyway. I mean, to be 10th in my division is really freaking cool to think about. As I look back almost 2 years ago, the biggest lesson I learned from this is to believe in second chances, also to take every opportunity and run with it.